Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video.
Matt, I don't really have any great or unique stories about my relationship with my sister, Mary. It's the same scene as with a lot of the posters on here. My sister was always a golden child because when she was younger, she battled a lot of health issues and fought them all like a champ while juggling school. My parents were very proud of her for this fact, and of course, as her sister, so was I. Now, I'd never say that she did not deserve to be mentioned for her ability to cope with so much at such a young age. But my point of contention was always that it wasn't something necessary to bring up at all and every place. It was like for my parents, that had become like their personality, and as sickening as it sounds, it had become their brand, and of course, they did spoil Mary, who had given them this new identity, got them so much sympathy, so many gifts, etc. My parents literally milked it all so much that she was literally given the Student of the Year award in middle school for being as strong as she was. And I, amidst all of this, had become the rejected child. My parents never bat an eye at me or what I was doing. Everything I achieved was either only met with a nod of approval or snide remarks, as it was never good enough in comparison to their warrior of a daughter. Needless to say, I had started to get frustrated, but knew the moment I'd open my mouth about it, I'd get punished in the worst possible ways for being inhumane towards my sister and her struggles. So I started to maintain my distance. Thankfully, it was from high school onwards that things started to get better. Everyone sort of realized how much Mary and my parents would milk the situation, and she began getting treated like everyone else. My parents and her weren't happy with it, but what could they do? Nothing really. As for me, I was just glad that no one really knew me as Mary's sister. So my high school years were nothing but a blast. I made friends and met my soulmate, Zach. These people meant to me more than family ever did and became the people I was destined to spend my college years with. I graduated from high school and got into college, and eventually, a year or two after Mary followed me and got into the same college as I did. We sort of hung out together here and there, nothing too deep, and so I never thought anything about her and my boyfriend or their interactions together because they were as normal as they possibly could be. And it was only a year that we spent together when she got into college because the very next year we all had graduated. So what was there to think about it, you know? Zach and I just moved back to the city we came from and started living together while we would meet Mary at Christmas dinners with her boyfriend. Time flew into thin air, and that is all the contact we ever had. Eventually, Mary graduated from college herself and moved back to the city along with her boyfriend. Nothing sounds out of the ordinary here, right? Just a story of two sisters that have sort of fallen apart. Well, that's true, but this is really the part where it all begins. It was Mary's 21st birthday, and I couldn't help but sort of have an emotional moment to see her become an adult just like I had. I knew she was throwing this huge party at her house, but I didn't really expect to be invited, but to my utter surprise, not only I was invited to it, but also was given an extra and apparently a special invite for Zach. This honestly should have been my red flag number one, but it wasn't because I just thought she was making friendly banter. Unfortunately, friendly banter was far from it all because Mary had a really sickening plan on her mind, and I wasn't going to find out about it all until the day of the party itself. We're at this party and everything seems normal as it possibly can, except for the fact that Mary's boyfriend is nowhere to be seen here. Mary, who is already drunk as a skunk, even before the party starts, tells us that he's out on a trip with his friends and complains about how boring he is. It's nothing new for Mary, so I'm able to ignore it all. I guess that's red flag number 2. Well, the party starts, and eventually we're at a point where the cake gets brought in and we start to hand Mary her presents. When I handed her the gift I had gotten her, Mary, in her very drunken state, along with the most serious tone she possibly can put on, leans into my ear and says something along the effect of, "There's nothing more I want tonight than your boyfriend to be single. I want him to be my only present." Her comment was followed up with something like, "If you don't fulfill my request, I have other ways to do it myself." I was so dumbfounded upon hearing this. It was like I had to ask her a couple of times just to confirm she wasn't joking. Unfortunately, she wasn't. And that is where I knew I had to run. I immediately pulled Zach aside and told him that we needed to leave. Zach tried to question me, but it was only when we got outside that I explained everything to him. He was as astounded and disgusted as I was. He confessed to me that at the party he was indeed getting a lot of stares from Mary's friends, which had made him feel pretty weirded out and unsafe. I was enraged. I knew I had to tell my parents about this all, but of course, the talk was an absolute fail. I don't know why I expected something else. I expected my parents to have an inch of common sense or decency. But nope, that was far from it. They not only agreed with her comments, telling me that a girl like Mary can have everything she wants, but also shamed me for not just getting up and giving up on my boyfriend. I was at a loss for words because I thought they had really liked Mary's boyfriend and admired them as a couple. I'm really not surprised at all of this, but at the same time, I'm starting to get a really bad vibe from these people. Something inside me says that I should run away as far as I can from them. AITA? After reading all of you guys' messages and comments, I felt a huge sense of relief take over me because I understood how panicked I was getting and how much of an overreaction I was sort of making out of this situation. I'm not minimizing the intensity of this situation, but the fact that I had gotten so insecure, worried, and scared just goes on to tell how much my parents had messed with my mental health and how weak they have made me feel in front of me when I knew Zach would never leave me for Mary. Thanks to you guys, though, I finally feel like I'm in control of the situation. And although there's a lot to worry about, I don't have to make myself go crazy over it. I have started to realize just the extent of torment my parents put me through and just how important it has become for me to put these people at a distance. But before that, after talking to Zach and reading all of you guys' suggestions, I have decided that it would really be for the best to approach Charlie, Mary's boyfriend, about this situation. It's not me who's going to do it, though. Charlie and I have never been that close, but Zach and Charlie have a couple of mutual friends from college. It's him who's going to make the move. We have already messaged him for the same. Now we're just waiting for a response. Let's see how things go. Zach and Charlie met at a bar today, and this is all that went down. Zach told him all about the situation, and by the way Zach was talking about it all, it seems like Charlie already had his own suspicions because, according to him, the only reason he ever went on that trip on her birthday was because she had told him she was having an all-girls party. It clicked to me there that there was literally no other guy except for Zach, and this other dude who seemed just as lost as Zach was. I was sick to my stomach upon hearing all of this. I thought to myself, how can someone be so vile and desperate? Mary truly hasn't changed, and I have realized that reaching adulthood hasn't mentally stabilized her one bit. She's the same old girl that thinks that the world revolves around her, and it's all because of my parents that she thinks she's still a little princess. She's not, though. and people aren't the toys she thinks they are that she can steal and play with. It's not me who's going to teach her this lesson, though. It's Charlie, who has most likely already done something because Mary and my parents won't stop spamming my phone like crazy, threatening me with all sorts of things. I'm as unbothered as I possibly can be. But I know Charlie has done something really crazy for them to be so mad. This information, like the rest, will come to me as well eventually, and I'll update you all about it. Here's my final update. It's been a month since everything went down. Charlie had gone on another trip to get his mind off of things, and Charlie came over a couple of nights before because he wanted to thank us for letting him know of the situation and not blinding him like some of Mary's and his mutual friends had by overlooking all that Mary had been doing. Apparently, Mary had been cheating all throughout their relationship, and it is only now that he found out about most of it. Poor guy had been paying for most of her and my parents' expenses because never had a job ever since the two graduated. He was literally planning to propose to her after her birthday. My jaw dropped after hearing all of this, but thankfully, it was all worth it when he also told us that he had dropped her completely, kicked her out of the house, took away the phone and car he paid for. Mary is currently at 0, and it makes sense now why my parents were as enraged as they were. I still can't get myself to empathize an inch with them, though, and I let them know of it when I called the cops on them and filed a restraining order once they showed up at my house. The restraining order was pretty easy to get because of all the threatening messages they had been leaving me, and with that, the very toxic, unnecessary relationship with my family had come to an end. I haven't been happier lately, and I cannot be more thankful to this community, my amazing friends, and Zach for the tremendous support. Thank you for reading, everyone. NTA, Mary is an entitled piece of trash, and due to it is no fault of hers because it's your parents who have been enabling her all her life. Hopefully, with what Charlie did, she's learned her lesson. It's highly doubtful that she did, but hope is all you can have for her at this age. NTA, glad you dropped your parents, something you should have done years ago. I hope you get some peace of mind and stability without them. My daughter, 19 female, has been in a relationship with, let's call him T, 22 male, for a few years. My husband and I have no issue with T. He's decent and respectful. However, we recently noticed that some of our valuables were starting to go missing. We came up with a plan that we will first ask my son, 16 male, to stop bringing his friends and see if things still went missing. Then ask my daughter to not bring T for the same reason, just so we can try and scope out who's the culprit. My son complied. However, my husband's watch went missing 2 weeks later. We didn't want to throw a fuss. Maybe we misplaced those items. After a thorough search of our home, cars, and workplace, we realized that there's no way they were misplaced. We then asked our daughter to stop bringing T home. We said she can make up an excuse to cover the real reason to not cause a ruckus, just in case. She threw a bit of a tantrum, but understood in the end. A month goes by and nothing else went missing, and we still couldn't find what was. I come home from work and see my daughter and T sitting in the living room. I asked my daughter to come to another room and express my disappointment for her going against my wishes. She said that because nothing else went missing, she thought it was fine. I told her she at least should have asked for my permission. I told my daughter to politely ask him to leave. She refused. I took it into my own hands and explained to T that he cannot come over and the reasons behind it. He immediately became defensive and said I was accusing him. My daughter jumped to his defense, but I still asked him to leave. Later in the week, my daughter comes home crying and screaming that her and T broke up and that it's all my fault. I tried to console her, but she stormed off to her room and has barely spoken to me for the past week. AITA? Just for clarity, when I spoke to T about the missing valuables, I did not accuse him of being the one to steal them. I simply explained that things were going missing and did not want anyone from outside of our household to come over until the situation was resolved. I'm also seeing a few comments regarding the age gap for when they met. My daughter was a month from turning 18 at their time of meeting. I believe he turned 20 not long before then. I met both him and his parents a few months later, and they were decent people. I did not have an issue. This didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would. This morning, my husband and I went to our local pawnbrokers to try find our missing items. Only 2 of the stolen items would stand out. One had a specific date engraved and my husband's watch. We went to one pawnbroker that is a branch, so they have a business in, basically, every town. We didn't find anything there, but the worker kindly offered to call other branches of the next towns over. To our delight, we found the date engraved item. They have a privacy policy regarding disclosing the name of the seller. Understandable. So we contacted the police and said we found an item in one of the stores. It took them an hour or so to send out an officer to the store and recover the name of the individual who pawned it. We received a call about 30 minutes ago. Turns out it was T who pawned the item. Police will be taking further action. I'm guessing they'll pay him a visit. Since we only found one item that was pawned, we're not sure if it was only T solely responsible for the missing items. Hopefully, we can recover the rest and get some answers in the coming days. Thank you to those who offered helpful advice to recover our items and prevent any further ones. NTA, I think you found the culprit. It's real convenient that things stopped disappearing when he wasn't around. As for your daughter, she's young and probably wasn't wanting to see the truth. It's your house, your rules. NTA. NTA. Either T broke up because you were onto him and now he's moving on to his next mark, or else he broke up because he wasn't stealing and he felt disrespected from the accusation. Either way, I would continue to keep an eye on your valuables. There is always a possibility that your son is the one who is stealing, and he's smart enough to stop doing it while T is not there to take the blame. I would wait and see if anything else goes missing, and especially if it starts happening when your daughter gets a new boyfriend. I would suspect your son. I don't suspect your daughter because I don't think she would blame her own boyfriend, but I could be wrong. If you find out it was one of your children, please make sure to apologize to your daughter for breaking up her relationship if it was your son, and to apologize to T. Summer of 2021. I'm female 28. My mother-in-law passed away due to a terminal illness. I had an extremely close relationship with her, and she was sort of a mother figure to me since I didn't have a mother, and my ex-husband, 30, and I were high school sweethearts. Before her passing, she gave me the ring that she wore on her finger for 30 years. Not her wedding ring, but one she held close to her nonetheless. It belonged to her mother and her mother's mother, and she wanted me to have it since she never had a biological daughter to give it to. It's one of my most cherished items. Months after this, my ex-husband cheated on me, and our divorce was finalized 2 months ago. Since the divorce, he's been nagging me about giving the ring back, saying it should stay in the family where it belongs, that it's more valuable to him since it was his mother's and not mine, and that it's what his mom would have wanted. Recently, his family has been putting a lot more heat on me to give the ring back and even threatening court. I was contemplating giving it back, but my ex-brother-in-law's wife informed me yesterday that my ex-husband is more than likely going to sell it, probably to cover all the divorce fees since I took half his shit, LOL. I understand wanting it back or wanting it to stay in the family, but out of all the women my mother-in-law could have given the ring to, she chose to give it to me. It means something to me, and I don't want to give it back to my ex just so he can make a pretty penny. At the same time, I hate to keep something sentimental from a grieving family. I don't want to keep something that's rightfully someone else's, even if they're just going to discard it. Please, AITA, since a lot of people are asking, it was appraised for 40,000 US dollars. NTA, my ex-mother-in-law gave me a ring, also a sentimental heirloom. When her son and I divorced, I asked her if she wanted to have it back. She said no. I was the daughter she always wanted, and she gifted it to me because she loved me. Ask yourself, if she lived to see how it all ended, do you think she would ask for it back? I'm inclined to think not. NTA, do not promise this or even mention it, IMO. But if it would make you feel better about keeping it, consider that years from now, you could possibly consider passing it back to his family in your will if the circumstances are fitting at the time. Then wear it and enjoy wearing it as a remembrance of someone who loved you and wanted you to have it.